Hi guys, welcome to our interview called Our Interview, Their Story with Erin Manning.
And Emma Waughen.
So for our interviews, I actually found it really interesting because Emma and I were both able to interview people in our families. So for my interview, I got to do Miss Reardon, who is a fourth grade teacher, and she is my sister.
And I got to do Miss Evans, who is my mom.
Which I think made the interview process a little bit more personal, easier to do, and just fun, and gives you guys a little bit of insight into our lives and what we've been seeing our family accomplish.
Yeah, more comfortable as well. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, how long has your teacher been teaching?
There were just a weird couple of years, so there's no exact number, but a long time. A long time. My mom knows both French and Spanish, so those are like the languages that she's worked with.
Oh, wow. So she really could be like a hands-on person for EL learners.
Yeah, and she definitely has been.
That's incredible. So my teacher is actually a little bit newer to the field. She has only worked with English language learners for 5 years now, so she just recently graduated college, so she's been having fun with it, though. So for one of my questions, I kind of just asked Miss Reardon, how many English learners have you had throughout your profession?
Oh, that's a good question.
And she said that she has taught around 30 ELL students throughout her profession, and she works in a public school who also provides support for the students within the entire district.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool because I've never been able to step into her classroom and observe it.
Yeah.
So I thought I've interviewed her on a lot of different things, but never on ELs.
Yeah. I've been in my mom's classroom just a number of times. It was a while ago, as a kid, or I'd go to her office sometimes, but I don't really remember that. I've asked my mom what a typical day looked like with ELs, and she just said that they're in the classroom for their morning when they do their morning meeting, and there's a specialist in the school, which was one of my other questions, so that just kind of came like a combined answer in a way. But there is a specialist in the school that will come in at certain times throughout the day, and from what she said, it's very consistent, which is good to keep them on that routine, keep that consistent of when they are taken out of the classroom. And because my mom stays in the general ed, there's not much that she doesn't see what's going on with the specialist
outside of the classroom
to know what's going on over there. But I just thought that was neat on what a typical day looks like. And then they come back through different times throughout the day, depending on what, when they have special, when there's lunches, their recess, all that time, what times to be in the classroom for learning and when to be out.
That's actually really interesting because I talked to my sister about it, but I didn't record it in my interview because we've talked about it many times before.
Yeah.
With her students that are either special ed or learning English, they get taken out of the classroom, but she is only a gen ed teacher, just like your mom.
Yeah.
But she has a aide in her classroom who is just special ed. So she works with them inside of the classroom.
Okay.
I got told that a lot of the students actually just go to the back of the classroom instead of leaving.
Oh.
They get to just work in smaller groups in the back.
Yeah.
Other than having to leave the classroom and go to a whole different space.
Yeah,
she said that it makes it more comfortable for the students
because they're already in that space. They know this to a new environment. Yeah, okay.
And there's not a new teacher that you have to meet and then there's that awkward
the whole space and and then all the other kids see that you're getting pulled out of the class until they understand
and it's that's embarrassing to some
kids.
That is
embarrassing. I remember being embarrassed as a kid.
I do too
and I was just in with the special education.
I feel like you and I talked about this when we were planning on the interview.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have a question talking about technology?
I actually didn't have a question about that, which I'm kind of... Oh, wait.
I feel like you did.
Oh, yes. I have... I asked my mom, are there any specific technology choices you have to help with listening and speaking?
Oh.
Each of the students have these, like, computers, and they have their own headphones, and there's this program. I didn't get a chance to write it down, because with my mom, when I did our interview, I just made it into, like, a conversation. I didn't want to record her because it's my mom.
That makes sense, yeah.
I don't remember what it was called, but there was this program where they would listen to, at least that we know of, but that was part of the content that's outside of the classroom with that specialist. But when the EL is in the classroom, she did answer other questions I had about, like, how they learn content in the room as an EL.
Yeah. All right. So mine was a little bit different. Mine was, how did technology make it easier or harder to teach English language learners?
Yeah.
And she said that she didn't really touch on what technology they specifically use. I'm assuming that it's probably a computer or an iPad because, you know, schools just have, like, those carts.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of, there's this big cart that has,
and then they're all numbered. But she says here that she has one student from Vietnam.
Oh, wow.
Who uses text-to-speech resources during her ELA block, which allows her to focus on the skills and strategies being taught rather than it interfering with the language barrier.
Yeah.
And I thought that was actually really interesting that they were able to get it I'm assuming that it's in her own language.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, like, for you, that would be like having someone up in front of the classroom doing ESL.
Interpreting.
Yeah.
Oh, for me? Oh, I thought you were talking for, like, for me, that would be, It's almost the equivalent to that, because it takes away, at least from also, like, that EL, it takes away the frustration of, like, the teacher will then be able to understand, because it's being translated, what they're saying, so then they can say something back to translate to the EL, and it takes away that frustration of, does this person understand me at all? Because I feel like I'm a little bit of a different situation with, like, knowing sign language and stuff. So I actually had a professor who I have actually, so here at Kitchtown, who called me like EL adjacent in a way, but I feel like for ELs, from what at least I've heard from, like, my mom and talking with other people, is that a lot of ELs tend to feel frustrated when someone doesn't understand them. So having that translator, that text-to-speech, is really neat because it almost takes away that frustration from them.
Well, I feel like with this semester specifically, I feel like a lot of our classes are touching upon, like, how, like, putting yourself in the EL shoes. And, like,
100%.
How hard it must be for them to feel almost outcasted in the classroom, to be like, there's 24 other students in my first grade class that know English perfectly, yet I'm from Spain and know English.
Yeah. It must be really hard, especially at their age as young kids.
And it's like a new school.
It's a whole new environment.
Kids, new teachers, no one that understands. Like, it's just...
Yeah. I talked to my mom. One thing that I really liked is that, like, during the school day, they have bookshops. And they have, like, different bins where they keep their books, and, like, throughout the week, like, they get to have those books. So when they have that independent reading time, they get to choose their book from their bin. And there's a variety of different books in their classroom library, which I think is really neat, so that all of the students, including the ELs, get to pick their own books, and there's a variety of different languages books as well, which her and I talked about for a little bit, and I just thought that was personally really neat that they get to have that time to go and pick their own books that they want to read, and that there's a good variety to a bunch of different languages, something that they would feel comfortable in. If they wanted to pick up a book in English to keep working on those skills, they could, but if they wanted to feel the comfort of their own home, or their first language, I should say, they could.
So my question, it, touches on what you were saying a little bit. But for my question, it says, what materials do you use in your classroom to improve their learning strategies? And my teacher was saying that she uses like textbooks and workbooks that have photos in them, but that are also bilingual.
Yeah,
so
that's great.
So they're like different languages.
Yeah, that's great.
She said that she also uses YouTube for like visual support.
Good.
And then specific programs like iReady and Sunday.
Yeah, those are good programs.
Which I feel like, especially iReady, we have learned a lot about.
Yeah, I've heard a lot
in this
already.
semester. But what do you feel like you took away the most from this interview?
I think what I took away the most was, or at least what I started to do afterwards, is be able to envision my own classroom from how I want it to be set up, from the environment so that it's welcoming for everyone, and those teaching practices I'd love to have. Like, of course I'll have a classroom library, but to be able to have bilingual books or like all of that is probably what I'd take away the most, is being able to have those programs on technology, and even without using technology. To have in my classroom were probably the biggest takeaways for me, is something that I would definitely use.
Oh, 100%. And I think not even...
Oh. Sorry, I just thought of something else.
What?
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No.
But to get that writing component, they write letters to their family. So they'll learn how to address it.
Wait, the families must love that.
Yeah. Like what they did throughout that week.
Wait, that's actually awesome.
And they do it in English so that the ELs as well can get better with that writing component, which is something I'd use that.
Oh, 100%.
I would have weekly letters written by the kids.
Oh, yeah, I think, and kind of just like what you said, I think this interview definitely like opened our eyes to like...
Yeah, 100%.
How we can support these students when they enter our classrooms.
Absolutely.
But I think that having these interviews and being our family isn't just so much more comfortable than a random teacher.
100%.
I think we get to see like tools and tricks inside their classroom and be like, oh my goodness, I would love to have that in my classroom.
100%.
Like how you were saying your mom has different books that the students get to pick out themselves. And then also like my sister having the bilingual textbooks and the text-to-speech. Like there's so many tools that we could take and bring into our classrooms.
Absolutely.
And I think that that's such a strong part of this interview. And then the last question that I kind of just wanted to touch upon is, do you think that because we have people in our families who are educators and have worked with ELs, do you think that that kind of like sets us off to be better teachers?
Actually, I think it does. And I think it does because, like, I love my mom. She has shaped me to be the person I am today.
Yeah.
And she's been an educator for so long, and now here I am, here in college, and also becoming an educator. And I feel like I definitely feel like having an educator in my family who has worked with ELs can definitely, I really do think that we could potentially be better off. And I'm glad that I was able to do it with my mom instead of a random teacher, because if it were a random teacher that I didn't know, I'd have a hard time trying to connect. Awkward. And because I already have that connection with my mom because she's my mom. Yeah. 100%.
I think that just being able to watch our families have so much love for the classroom and their students.
100%.
It gets us excited as to be like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to be in the classroom and for these to be my students and to learn from me. And, you know, I'm excited. I like being able to watch our families do what they love, and I love them being able to watch us study and go into the same
being
thing.
Like, here, I have this in a box for you for your future classroom. Like, my mom is already excited for me for this, so I 100%,
It was great talking to you guys.
Yeah, great talking.
Tune in to the next one.